The 365 Pro Wrestling.
365 Nation, Eddie Osborne here, and today's guest, he was the Prince of Power, he was the Lord's Warrior, he is Siddartha. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm so happy you could be here. This is something that people probably don't get to see very often, is you talking. We're going to talk about your career and everything like that. So opening up is something that's really cool, and social media is all about it nowadays. One of the things I think is really cool is, like, you moved, like myself, all the way from Victoria, so Vancouver Island, to Ontario to train. Can you kind of talk first maybe about, like, how you got interested in pro wrestling?
It was always a dream, I guess, when I was a younger kid, like, whose dream isn't when they see two gladiators like Warrior and Hogan on TV at the time. So, yeah, after going to WrestleMania in Seattle, I was just like, I got to try this stuff out. It kind of really interested me after that. And then I searched online for wrestling school, found the Hart Brothers School of Wrestling in Ontario, and then was on my way to my wrestling journey out to Ontario. And I don't really look back on it. I mean, I learned a lot going out that way, which is kind of cool.
For sure. And I was at a Big West show. We were doing May Days there. And Julia was there, and she went to school with you. And in the yearbook, it has your picture in there, and it's like your likes are WWE, and your dislikes were like WCW and ECW. And it popped me huge. I was like, this is awesome, like, from moons ago.
Yeah, I think the reason was I always thought WWE should have been at the top, and I was always down with WWE, and anything competing against WWE, I was always against. So I think that was one of the reasons I had a dislike for ECW and WCW. But as getting into the business and everything, I see that those two businesses had quite a bit of really good talent in them as well. And it was just, I guess, at the time, being a child and liking the wrestling business, you're just thinking, you know what, they're against the one that I really like, and they're trying to put them out of business. So no, they're my dislike.
As fans, that's what we all have, favorites, right? So
exactly.
Growing up, you mentioned Hogan and Warrior. Was there anyone else who really sparked your attention when they were in the ring?
There was Undertaker was one of my favorites as well. Kane was one of my favorites. I really like them. I believe that's why I play my character off as a dark side persona from those two characters as well. Sure. And other than that, yeah, I was really a Triple H fan, Bret Hart fan as well. So yeah, there was a lot of bandwagons I was jumping on as well. And yeah, but I think my main one out of all time, I had to be Warrior. Just the intensity that guy brought to the ring was just phenomenal.
He just run there the whole time. And I remember one of the Manias, it was like, I don't know, it was probably like a kilometer of the ring, it felt like. And he just ran his ass off all the way there, shook all the ropes. He was very entertaining.
He was really entertaining and energetic, and he was one of my memorable moments. Was when Papa Shango and Sid Vicious were attacking Hogan, and announcers are like, he has no friend in sight. I'm like, oh my god, he's done. And then suddenly Warriors music hit, and I'm like jumping out of my seat, like my favorite wrestler's back. Oh my god,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. So, before you went to the wrestling school, because you came to the wrestling school in shape, before you went to the wrestling school, you really worked out quite a bit. Can you kind of talk about getting into that regime and everything?
Before I did the professional wrestling, I was in amateur wrestling. I did play rugby for a bit as well. And in the amateur wrestling, at the age of 13, I knew that to even get into like the professional part of it as the professional wrestler, you had to look the part. So I started working out when I was 13 and been going at it since. And they really helped me out in like the amateur wrestling aspect of it. I was able to get silver in BC, was the best I ever did. And I mean, I'm proud of that. At least it goes something. And I did it with a cold as well. So it was kind of a hard tournament, but got through it with a cold. That was good. But yeah, I've been working out since then, and I think it's been almost over 22, 23 years since I've been hitting the gym and whatnot.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Now, When you went to the wrestling school, what was the first thing you noticed, like the biggest difference from the amateur and the pro, or like was it different at all? Is exactly what you wanted?
It was a bit different. I mean, I guess when we would shoot fight and whatnot, or submission fight in the ring, I mean, that was a bit the same, the grapple part of that. And but yeah, the professional aspect of it, like how to put a match together, how to get the psychology, that was really different compared to the amateur wrestling.
For sure.
But being in the shape, I think for the professional wrestling, you got to have a bit more shape just because of the falls and the bumps you have to take in the ring.
Oh, protect your body. And I remember we used to always shoot fight in the beginning. I don't know if we ever did. I probably lost if I did wrestle you, but I'd lose a ton. But I used to love it because it just made me like stronger, I think.
It did, no, for sure. And then getting to know new moves, like as for when I used to bounce in Ontario, and it really helped me on that one too.
For sure, it actually helped me with that as well.
Yeah.
So, did you have any like? Because I know when I moved, I was 18. I moved to Ontario, and it was a culture shock to me. It was just so much bigger than Vancouver Island. There's a lot more diversity, which was really cool, and there's just so much more stuff happening. Was that the same for you, or coming from Victoria, you kind of already had that mentality?
Well, even in Victoria, the islands, Victoria's not that big compared to the majority of the Canadian cities. And yeah, when I went to Ontario and I actually went to Toronto, I was blown away, like how big the city was and how many people were there and how flat it actually was. When I was in the plane, I remember coming from a forest part of the country into all the flat plains. And I remember getting into Ontario, and the humidity out there was just so much worse than out here. But yeah, the big city was a bit overwhelming compared to being out here and whatnot.
You know what? The humidity was a huge thing. That was the biggest difference probably to me. It was so hot.
It was hot, yeah.
and then the winter's lasting 6 months.
Oh yeah, the winters were horrible too. I remember. Yeah, I remember running in minus 35 degree weather, and you could just feel the cold on your skin. Like, yeah,
it's a different cold to us West Coast guys. It's like the rain like chills to the bone here, and then out there, like the cold's just kind of like it's just cold.
Dry kind of cold.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. But how was training for you? Like, who'd you train with? Who'd you come up with?
Well, when I first went there, I remember. I think my very, very first trainer was Johnny Canine, Ruslan Bredlum, and also known as. And I remember the students before the training were trying to get me to at least know something, because they told me that if I did not know it, Johnny wasn't going to teach me. He was just going to tell me how it was, and if I didn't know it, I'd be in the corner getting chopped. Yeah. And I didn't know like how bad that was, but so I was like, okay. So K9 comes in, and I'm like, oh, this guy's the size of a fridge, or maybe 2 fridges. This guy's massive. And shook his hand, and I've shooken a lot of big guys' hand, but he was the first one that had a big chunk of muscle in his bottom part of his hand. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I've never shooken anybody's hand to this day that had a big hand like that. And he was really intimidating and whatnot. And so I was trying to not be intimidated by him, but it was just so hard not to be. And then I remember, I think the first spot he said, tackle, drop down, hip toss. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about? And all he said was, make sure it's on the left. But I kept trying to hip toss on the left, which you hip toss on the right, the left side of the other wrestler. And I'm like, I just didn't understand. And I remember being in the corner, getting chopped after chop. And yeah, at the end of the night, I finally got it. And I remember everybody cheering for me because I finally got it. And but I paid for it by when I went to the mirror and looked at my chest, and it was all turning black, blue, purple. Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Yeah, I think we were probably cheering just because like we didn't have to chop you anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I remember some of the students just feeling so badly, but Johnny just kept telling them, you guys went through this too, so he doesn't get no special treatment, so chop him.
And then if like we didn't chop you, we would have got chopped too.
You would have got chopped, exactly. Yeah,
so it's quite a trial by fire, especially when you first started. Do you remember anything else like through training? Like, who'd you work with mainly?
I remember
It was
after I trained with
K9.
it was K9 Sid Summers. I trained with him, and he was a bit more easier. He actually went through the moves with you. He didn't chop you. He would make you do push-ups if you leaned on the ring and whatnot.
I
But
still teach my students today.
yeah, no, you do, and that's awesome. And I always remember that. And that every time I come to one of your classes and you do that, and it always clicks those memories when Rory used to do that.
Yeah. No, I thought he
And
was really good at breaking it all down.
yeah, he was really good at breaking it down, and he was a really good trainer. And yeah, I learned quite a bit off him as well as when I was in there, and I really enjoyed getting in the ring with him.
After that, we started doing some events, some PWA stuff. Was that your first event? Was PWA?
I
Or
believe
did
I
you
might have
get a-
done maybe something on the island before then for Vid Vane, maybe
Right.
like I think I was a lumberjack or something. But after that, yeah, I think for match wise, I think PWA was one of my first promotions I worked for. Actually, maybe I worked for OSPW before that with you guys when we traveled in the States and
in New York.
and those were the first ones I think, and maybe Chuck Sims maybe here and there, and then after it was PWA. Yeah,
That's true. You're
after
right.
my injury that I had, and
I was gonna say now let's talk about your sciatica, correct?
yes, that's what it was.
And I remember like you being like in so much pain, you'd be like laying in bed for like half the day, just in pain.
It was the most worst pain I ever felt in my whole life. Even to this day, I've never felt pain like that. I mean, it might have made my pain high tolerance for pain, but that pain was so intense. Like I could not sleep, I couldn't sit, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything to get that pain out of my leg or anything. And it just was driving me nuts. And I lost a lot of weight, and I thought everything was done. The doctors told me my career was done. And yeah, that really hurt when, cause I was just getting into wrestling, and I was already told that you don't think you'll be able to get back in the ring after this injury. So
that's crazy. Now you did get back into it, and during it, I got to tell you how nice of a guy this guy is. I know he's like he could kill you in a minute, but this guy, we had no licenses at the time. Me, Jesse Jones, I think Buck 10, Elian, we were all assholes. We didn't have the licenses. And we needed to get to Cuyahoga, New York. It was like a 14-hour drive. I don't know. It was a long drive. Probably only like 8 hours, but it was long.
Yeah, it was pretty long.
You drove our asses with the bum leg. And
that was the longest drive in my whole entire life. The pain was so intense. I don't know how I put up with it that day, but no matter what I did to try to get out of that pain, it just wouldn't work. And yeah, I was like, man.
I remember feeling so bad. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah, no.
License now, and I'll drive you anywhere you want, sir. But thank you. That was
yeah. The whole thing was I had an awesome time going there, so I think it all made up for it.
Yeah, we had a really good time.
Yeah, I mean,
guys in the car.
Yeah, so it was just a sitting part and probably the stand, but I don't know. It was just a fun time. I'm going out to New York. Every time I went out there, I always had a fun time. Always hoping we would get over the border, which we usually did. So,
and that was the scary part. We weren't allowed to cross the border. We're still not allowed to cross the border and wrestle in America without a license, a card, a visa. But I remember one time, I think it was Fox, Elian, Buck 10, you and me. So the car, it's a small car. We're all jammed in it. Maybe Fox was in there. But we all had the same color black boots on, and we used to wear our boots underneath our pants and put our knee pads down and all that. And we got pulled in. And you were the driver, and you're like, so you had to talk to all these guys while we all sat there and waited. And then they checked the car out. They thought they found pot oil. It was just applesauce for teeth. It was crazy. Do you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, I got pulled in, and I was like, "Oh man, are we going to even go over? Because I'm probably going to mess up on something they tell me." Well, I don't know. Apparently, we got through. So
yeah, you did well. I just remember we all had the same boots on, and I'm just looking at us all standing by each other. We all have the same black patent boots.
I remember that. Like,
oh man, those are good times. I think I wanted to kill Buck 10 because we stopped and we're like running late, and he's like, I gotta go get a burger. I'm like, no.
I remember that. Yes, needed that burger.
I was gonna kill him. But
no, man. That one. one time me, Buck 10, and Jesse went to one of those OSPW shows, and I think we took one of the cars from the school, and it ended up breaking down on us in the middle of the snow. So we had to melt snow to try to get into the radiator.
Jeez,
that was fun times as well.
all kinds of good times. Now, when you started wrestling, was Jesse Jones your manager right away? I can't quite remember.
Jesse Jones was not my man. Or no, sorry. Yes, he was my manager right away. Because I remember I came in as your guys' bodyguard in the beginning, yes. And then then when I started wrestling, he brought me out to the scene for a bit. Yes, and then before we tagged up and whatnot.
Now, he's an interesting guy, to say the least. He always cracks me up. Especially back in the day.
Well, I remember we were in a match one time. I messed up my knee from one of the suplexes. I look back and he's mad at me for messing up my own knee. I'm like, why is he hot at me for it? So I didn't break his knee. But it was funny. I'll never forget that look he gave me in his face when I'm trying to tag him because he had to get in and do majority of the work.
That would be a first. Now, how was tagging with him? How was working with Jesse? Because I always say he helped me out a lot, especially when I was brand new.
He had good psychology in the ring, and I really enjoyed working with him in the ring. I enjoyed working against him and with him, which was really awesome. He always knew how to put the match together in the ring. He always knew what to do in the if I was lost in a tag match, before he tagged me out, he'd let me know what I had to do, and it'd be just right there, and I'd remember the whole match after that. It's like he just had his ways, and I really enjoyed working with him, and I haven't seen him for a long time, but yeah, it's been it was really good times working with Jesse and being on the road with him.
For sure. What is your favorite story about Jesse? There's so many.
There's a lot of stories about Jesse.
One, like,
so is my favorite of Jesse's. Well, I guess it was when we were in Niagara for Chuck's show. It was when I first started in the wrestling business, and it was the first time I ever actually went out to a show in the ring and came out as actually your and Jesse's bodyguard. And I think the whole thing was at the main event, he was supposed to take Quan Chang away from Pinky, one of the other managers.
Oh.
And from what I heard is that he was taking guys left, right, and center away from Pinky. And I don't know if this really upsetted him or not, but we're going to the ring, and out of nowhere, the whole thing, we're talking in the back that Pinky was just going to shove Jesse. He was going to shove him. They're going to get in the ring, have a little confrontation, and that was it. So Pinky comes up to Jesse. Jesse tags Quan on the shoulder, and next thing I know, a big right hand comes right for Jesse's face. Jesse's on the ground, and Pinky just lays it into his back, and I'm like in shock, like what the hell? And then somebody's like, "Oh, you're a nice bodyguard, some kind of bodyguard you ended up being." And that's when I'm like, "Well, yeah, well, what am I doing?" So I quickly push Pinky away from him. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And Jesse's head's ringing. I could tell he's like dazed and not knowing where he is. And I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Thanks for helping me." Looks up at me, and I'm like, "Sorry, that was just a shocker to me. The guy just came up and gave you a right hand right to the face." And I remember there was another student named Aaron from England. Me and him had such a laugh of it all night long at Niagara that the guy pretty much ambushed Jesse. And Jesse was like, "Well, I'm glad I was your enjoy of the night."
Yeah, no, that was hilarious. I forgot all about that. That guy just went off on it.
He went nuts. Yeah, and then I asked Jesse if that was legit, if they had a few. He's like, "I think it might be because I keep taking his guys away from him."
Yeah, and he didn't even know. Like, it was just the promoter wanted it that way, so they did it that way.
Yeah. And I guess he was just upset about it, and he legitimately beat up Jesse for it.
Man, it was a different time back then. But
it was.
What are some of your favorite matches from the early era? Or like moments even.
Some of my favorite matches were I actually liked that one match we were in OSPW. It was actually it was my probably first match in the ring. It was myself, yourself, Buck 10, Sean Spears was in the match it was the Canadians against Americans with
we had Angel as well.
Sorry?
We had Angel in our team as well, I think.
We did, yes. I think it was something like that, yeah. And I remember it was the first time I think Money and Power were actually on the road as well, and it was against the Sons of Thunder and Mark Mandrake, and there's somebody else on that team which I can't remember. It was J Rock was there.
J Rock, nice.
Yes, and then so it was and Fabulous. I remember those. I think it was like a 6 or 4 way, but it was an elimination, and that was one of my favorite matches. It was one of my first matches we had, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a while back, and it was good times.
How was teaming with Jesse like at the end? Because you were kind of doing your own thing, and then Jesse was teaming a little bit, dabbling in managing still. Like, you guys always had such a partnership.
We did have a partnership. The first time, I know my gimmick changed as I became the Lord's Warrior and whatnot. I was changing my gimmick from what I was with Jesse and Money and Power. And when he wanted to tag up with me, then I was like trying to work it how I could work it in with his gimmick and my gimmick, because it wasn't the same gimmick as we had before. And so I just realized maybe I should just have him kind of control the monster at the same time, him be my tag team partner, which I think it kind of worked out. It made kind of sense that he brought in he was able to bring in the monster again, and this time he was more of a monster than he was before, and he was actually tagging with him. So
I like it. Now, what brought you back to British Columbia?
What brought me back was I don't really know. It was just something told me that I just should come back, and I always wanted to go back to Ontario. It was always one of my things on my list that I should do, but then things just started going good here in British Columbia, and I ended up staying. I was thinking that when I left Ontario in 2009, I was thinking maybe I'll come back for at least a few years, but then those few years turned into more, and then in 2010 was the time I had a tryout for the WWE, and I was able to go down there. And then after that, when I came back to BC, I kept getting bookings here and stuff. So, and then I just decided maybe I should just stay here and maybe just do it here. I'm closer to family and friends out here. So I just decided to stay, and yeah, it's not been too regretful. I mean, I don't mind BC. It's a beautiful place, and I enjoy being here and staying here.
For sure. Now, when you went back, how long was it before you went to Storms to like train again and just get refreshed?
After 2010, I went to WWE, got my evaluation from them, and they said that they were really interested in me because of the multicultural that they wanted at the time, that and whatnot. And I asked them what should I do, and they said if you can train with somebody that's been in WWE, that'd be great. And I asked them who do they recommend, and at the time I was talking to Steve Curran, and he said I recommend Dudley's or Lance Storm, which one's closer. And I told him Lance Storm's closer. He's just in Alberta. He's like, if you can go see him and see how that goes, and then come back and see us again. And I was like, okay, sure. But so after that, like I think it was about in September of 2011 is when I headed up to Lance Storm and went to go refresh my training and train with him, and I learned a lot off him. He's a really good trainer, and he refreshed my stuff, and it was really good.
What stuck out to you the most about training with him?
The most was the psychology, I think. He really was able to get the psychology to me. Other than that, like he told us like if you want to make it far in this business, what to do and what you got to do, and it was pretty interesting journey going there, and learning a lot from him that way. And any question or anything you had, it's always like he knew the answer about the wrestling business, which was really neat. That's
very cool. Now you came back, you did another Fed trial, correct?
I didn't do another one. I wanted to go down and do another one, but stuff like life gets in the way, so it's just that things don't work out the way you want it to, and then you can't just get up and leave is kind of what the situation I was in at the time. So, and then you started wrestling locally. You did quite a bit of ECCW events, didn't you? I have done ECCW events, yes. Yeah, how was that? Because you broke into there. That was before VIPW or PWA on the island. It was like, is more of ECCW or All Star, I guess. I was an All Star before ECCW. I worked for All Star for a little bit, and had a few feuds with guys in there and whatnot. And then after that, I went on to ECCW and worked for them, and then they started VIPW on the island, and went from there, kind of thing.
So in ECCW, I remember like one of the bigger things. More recently, they had you and Scotty and the whole Christina storyline, and I thought that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like doing that one?
I had fun doing that one. That was a really interesting storyline. I blew it off. We blew it off at the a stretcher match, which I became victorious on that one. And but every time I get in the ring with Scotty, I just had good psychology with that guy. He's really good, excellent in the ring. Christina was really awesome to work with. That whole feud was really fun to work with and work through with those two, and with the whole group. It was really fun, and I had a interesting time. He's one of the better wrestlers I've worked in the ring and have had fun with a lot working with him.
Sure. It was just a cool angle to me. Like they're going to get married, but you're pulling her away from them. And it was a really neat angle. And then they turn and fans had sympathy for you. So
yeah,
it was
exactly.
Pretty cool.
It was. Now, and then I enjoyed putting him to his wedding cake there.
That's awesome. I think it's classic. Like that's wrestling.
Yes, it is.
And then in this time, were you teaming with Cremator much? Because you and him ended up becoming such a good team. The Monsters of Mayhem, the Lord's Warrior, Cremator Von Slasher. I love it. How's that been?
That I've always had fun working with Creams, especially in the casket matches we've had against each other have been fun. But tagging with them has been awesome too. As Monsters of Mayhem, it's I like it. It's like a destructive team that you can't. It's an unstoppable force, and it really makes sense with the two monsters. And at the time, I believe we were in the Monsters of Mayhem group when I was working in the ECCW as well for the Scotty Mac angle there. It's always been a nice time working as Monsters of Mayhem and being able to show the fans that two destructive forces like are there, and then even if we're heel or even if we are face, I think we still get cheers either way.
It's true. They like even you guys are supposed to be bad guys, but you're just two badass dudes killing people.
Exactly.
And fans like get behind it big time.
They do, yeah.
Now, awesome. You guys also had Rigger Von Slasher as your manager. How was he different than Jesse? Like, what was his plus side in your group?
Rieger is more different than Jesse. He's a really interesting person to work with. I really enjoyed working with him, and I'm hoping we get to work again in the future again. He's always as a good manager. He's always there when you need him to cheap shot somebody or do anything. It was funny one day we were in a match, and he's I think it was a fans being weapons match against Scotty Mac, and the table was all messed up, and he's trying to fix it. At the same time, Scotty reversed the reversal, and then I was flying right through the table, and he's right under, and he just ended up moving right away from it.
Oh, so man.
He's really good at trying to, like, if something's messed up in the ring, he's really good at getting in there quickly and trying to fix it, so we're safe and whatnot, which is really cool. Awesome. He put himself in harm's way just to make sure we were safe, which was awesome. He is different than working with Jesse, though. Jesse was a bit more different. Jesse was more into, I'm guessing that Jesse's been in the ring and has been a wrestler and been on the road, so he was more good with the psychology part of the wrestling and the matches, and Rieger was really there for if you needed him. Rieger would always be there, kind of thing, in any aspect if he needed to be there for you and whatnot.
Awesome. Now, VIPW, you had a little hiatus for a bit there, but you came back in one of the coolest entrances ever. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, it was, my neck was really starting to bug me, and it was starting to cause headaches, and I still have a little bit of problems with it, but it's not as bad as it was before. And I thought if I took a bit of a break out of the wrestling ring, it probably help. So to do that, I guess the best way to do is just go out as being almost like buried alive type deal. So I got taken out in a body bag, and then they brought me back in a body bag, which was really interesting. I mean, they told me that, they were going to bring me back out in the same body bag that I was taken out in. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, almost seems like I never left the body bag. And so 10 months later, they brought me back out in the body bag. And to this day, when I see myself sitting up, I get goosebumps.
And the crowd just went wild.
They did. I mean, I guess they realized I wasn't around for a while, and yeah, they must have missed me or something.
It was just what an entrance. I think that was one of the best entrances really ever. Mm-hmm. Now, looking forward, you've been doing this a long time. You wrestled a lot of great people. Who do you want to wrestle before, say, like, once things get going again? Who are some people you'd like to work with?
I think I wouldn't mind working El Phantasmo. He's a really good wrestler. He's got a good gimmick as well. As I think me and him would work really well in the ring and would have a good psychology. I know me and him have talked and been wanting to work with each other for a while, and I haven't really had the chance to. Another one would be, I'd say Nelson Creed would be another one. I think me and him would be able to work something out really good. Once again, we've talked about working with each other and never been able to, and I think me and him would have a good psychology match again and whatnot if we ever had a chance. So, is
there anything like you want to accomplish before you're done wrestling? I know I still have like tons of things I want to do. There's lots of stuff. Or are you just wrestling because you love it so much? Like, what's the Lord's Warriors like quest now?
I think with everybody, when they get into this business, with every wrestler, their main dream is to get into the big times always. I know that is from far-fetched right now in a way. I don't have the time and patience to do it anymore. I believe that, it's pretty much just wrestling to do what I can. If I can get into the maybe States and wrestle for maybe a few more promotions out there would be nice, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, really. Just staying locally is not too bad for me right now.
VIPW is so big. It's doing really great things, and you're a huge part of it. I was thinking about, like, you're such a nice guy. People are really loving you. Like, has there been a time where you just wanted to kill somebody?
Whatever it is, I'll try to control the match as good as possible. I think our last match we had in VIPW, a couple of rookies we were working with, and the match just got pretty frustrating. And I was trying to pull it together as much as I could. I could only do so much, and I think I lost my temper and legitly chokeslammed one of them. And I remember Brett Matthew just looking at the guy going, "Oh shit, Lack is pissed."
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think the only person I wanted to ever kill was that fan that jumped in the ring, and I attacked him that one time.
That was amazing.
So that was in Langford. I remember at a VIPW show, and he just jumped in the ring, and while we were having a match, and I just speared him right out of the ring and pulled him out, and then his buddy tried to get involved, and there was a big tussle for a bit, and then they just got thrown out of the building, but they messed up our match that we weren't even able to continue it.
Yeah, that was sad because of the match, but hearing that you threw the guy out and all this, I'm like, damn, I was in the back drinking. I didn't even know about it. I was in the other room with Jimmy. But I'm like, what? I missed all the fun.
It was a fun night.
What do you, because you've come down a few times now to the Pro Wrestling Academy and kind of help out with the new guys. What do you like to do with that? And like, is it something you think about doing in the future, like doing more training?
Yeah, if I ever get a chance, I wouldn't mind helping out the new guys. I mean, I'm always happy to help them out and show them a few things and give them a bit of knowledge that I got from this business. It's always nice to see new guys still interested in the business and want to do this and whatnot. And yeah, if whenever this all gets back to normal, I'm hoping that I can get out to more of the sessions that you got and come out and help out and whatnot and show some of the guys some of the stuff that I've learned over the past and whatnot in this business.
It's always fun when you get in and like you chain a bit or you do something like that's definitely not in the Siddartha character. People are like, whoa, you can do that? You're like, yeah, I can wrestle. Like you
Well, it's funny. I was actually one of those old videos you put on. I think it was I was tagging out with PD Flex, and I was against we were against Mr. Floppy and Warhead, and I'm actually chaining with Warhead. I'm like, I barely do that.
No, I haven't seen you do that in a match ever, but like, I guess that was the one. But yeah, it's kind of cool that you can do all that and you know all that, but like your character's something else, so you play to that character.
Exactly.
But it's just fun to see the students be like, oh, I can do all that, and like doing your drop down leapfrogs. They're like, whoa, like it's always fun to watch their faces when you're working with them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember the one time in Elements, I think I went off the top rope with a flying elbow, and I think I was like 12, 15 feet in the air, and I landed, and I told the other wrestler to move, and I landed on the ground. I think it was Dirty D came running back to you and said, Lack just jumped off the top rope with a flying elbow, and you're like, Lack can do anything.
Yeah, he can do anything. Like,
he comes up and tells me, he's like, and he didn't even have no like impression on his face, like, oh my God, or anything.
Yeah, I know how it is. But man, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Is there anything you want to tell the fans, or anything you want to say or put out there?
Other than thank you to all the fans that support us and watch us and give us a reason to do all this. I mean, just like everybody else, there's been times when you just want to walk away, but then you just think, like, who else is going to entertain these guys? And it's really enjoyable to entertain the fans that come out, and really thank them for coming out and supporting us, because without them, we can't do this. So, and other than that, it was great being on the show, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this, man. I hope we get to catch up and do this again soon.
Yeah, me too. That'd be awesome.